Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Davey Deathray here with my guy Mark from Tales from the Shelf. How you doing, Mark?
Doing well. How's everyone doing tonight?
Yeah, doing great. I mean, the weekend is ending out better than it started for me, so that's always a good thing. And it's great to see you again. You had been a guest on Late Night with the Davey. I don't know, maybe it was like a month ago or so, and it was the first time we ever really like interacted outside of DMs, and we talked for like 2.5 hours. So felt like a brother from another mother kind of thing. So really glad we could get together for something like this, because Aliens is all over the place right now with Romulus being out. Please, nobody in the chat say anything about Romulus. I haven't seen it yet. Mark has. But it just seems like the whole entire franchise is sort of like enjoying a whole lot of love right now.
Yeah, it's always fun anytime a new movie in a franchise is coming out because everyone is always going back and revisiting the whole franchise. People are doing like the revisionist thing where it's fun to see people like, actually, this movie wasn't so bad. And it's like,
Sure.
it's just fun to see things get reappraised as time goes on, and how people are seeing it for the first time.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen Alien Resurrection. That's one that I've never seen before.
Yeah, that's one of the ones you're talking about where people are like, you know what, it's really not that bad if you forget like 60% of the plot.
I was mostly referring to like Covenant and Prometheus. Like those are probably the two most divisive, I would say.
Yeah.
Like I think most people are in agreement that like Resurrection is not good. But it's a really interesting franchise, man.
Yeah, let's just get that out of the way right now. I think Prometheus surely has things about it that it could have done better. But I think it's like years beyond. I mean, it's so much better than Covenant. To me, Covenant felt like this course correction that just had no soul, and just the things that I didn't like about Prometheus were still in Covenant. Like, I don't like it when like brilliant space traveling scientists like go to a strange planet and just start taking their helmets off like without even thinking, just because they're like, well, there's air. It's like, oh my God, you guys, like you're the scientists. You should know about the spores and all the crap that can be floating around on it, but
it's hard to get past that stuff. Like,
yeah,
I feel like I'm not a screenwriter, but it probably wouldn't be that difficult to come up with a way for them to take their helmets off.
Yeah.
Like a way that makes sense, not just to do it because there's air.
Yeah. Yeah. There should be some sort of like a technical emergency or something, like some sort of reason.
Right. Like think of something,
Well, and I think that's what I like about with Prometheus. There is a lot of world building in there. I really like that. I think Ridley Scott is good at that part of the job. So I guess that's why I enjoy that one more. But let's say what's up to everyone in the chat. What do you say? Let's see here. We've got Lamontre Gillard in the chat. How are you doing, Lamontre? Hope you're having a great weekend, sir. Saturn Video says Alien 79 being my favorite all-time movie. I've always thought it was leagues above Aliens. So I know which way you voted in the poll there, Saturn Video. Necro Mechanimal. What's happening, Necro? Good to see you. Thank you so much for the sweet little thumbnail there on Instagram. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was really cool. The way he put your face on Ripley, it looks really organic. Like it looks like it was like it looks very natural.
And that is how happy I am when I get to hold a cat. That's a true representation. So very accurate.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good like little Photoshop. It looked very good.
What's happening, Raymond? Great to see you tonight. We got our guy Eli Cortez. You guys, every single stream, it seems like I'm talking about Eli, because Eli won't stop sending me cool shit. He sent me 2 care packages, and then yesterday in the mail, I got a copy of John Carpenter's, his 4th record, Noir, that just came out. So a copy on vinyl that came with a clear 7-inch. It's a limited edition. So thank you so much, Eli. You're too sweet, man. Make me feel like I've got 1 million followers, bud. Necro says Romulus actually came to my theater. It's the only Alien movie I've seen, so no spoilers for anything except. Okay, yeah, I appreciate that, Necro. Thank you for walking us to the edge and then backing off. Raymond saying, "What's up to everyone? How you doing, Big Rod? Hope all is well and you're settling in after your big move." We got Mark saying, "What's up to everyone?" We've got Gory Tiger in the house. How you doing, Gory? Dawn of the Dead 84. What's happening? I love Dawn of the Dead.
It's my buddy Jerry from Instagram. He's a really cool guy. Always
Oh
supporting
yeah,
and stuff.
yeah. Thanks for coming and hanging out, Jerry. Really appreciate it, man. Any friend of Mark is a friend of mine. What's happening, Aaron? Great to see you. We got Antonis in the chat, one of our great channel members. How you doing? Fight the good fight. Aaron says there's no contest. Alien is far superior to Aliens. Well, I'm excited to see what everyone says as we go through the categories here. We've got Brooke Scarlett, another one of our great channel members. I forgot to mention it earlier, but Big Rod's also a channel member. And Big Rod just gifted a membership. Let's see who got the membership that Big Rod gifted. Let's see here. Sean was gifted a membership. Let's see if Sean pops up in the chat here now that he has membership status. We'll see. We'll see. Who else do we got in here? Fight the Good Fight says, I saw Prometheus in theaters and it was not what I expected and I didn't like it, but I haven't seen it since. I need to revisit it. I think I liked it more the second time. It's just beautifully shot. It's just such a good looking movie.
Yeah, a Ridley Scott movie can only ever really be so bad, and it can only ever really look so bad. I mean, they all, regardless of like maybe the content of the films themselves, Prometheus and Alien Covenant are really good-looking movies.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And like the weight of I've always felt like, pre-digital effects, post-digital effects, the weight of the ships feels like real to me. The way they move through time and space, like just has more of a real feeling. He's amazing at doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, especially in the original, which we're gonna get into.
Yeah. I mean, even he did Blade Runner, right? He did the first Blade Runner movie.
Oh, yeah.
I think even that movie's got like a lot of again, the world building's great. Everything feels like true to the time that they're in. Even though we haven't seen that version of the future yet. Why do I always want to sing Gory Tiger's name to the vocal melody of Holy Diver? Gory Tiger! You can see his stripes, but he's clean. It's hilarious. Hopefully we don't get docked for that. Yeah, guys. So we do have a couple things before we really get going. There is an active poll in the chat. It looks like we've got 16 votes so far. And man, I don't even want to talk about it until we get further into everything, because I'm hoping that this room just fills with people because there's so much Alien content out there right now. Let's see if we get some randoms, huh, people? And then, yeah, for all the channel members and everything, just want to say an extra thank you to you guys. It's awesome to see everyone, giving the membership a shot. We're doing exclusive live streams of the Tales from the Crypt episodes. So we're doing like live watch parties with those for the members. And I've got some other stuff coming your way as well. Gory Tiger says, I think it's because of Garrett. Does he do that, Gory Tiger? Garrett from Born to Be Rad? Is that who you're talking about? And we got MAGA Cat in the chat. What's happening, MAGA? MAGA, did you see the last review of Tales from the Crypt? I gave you a shout out. Please tell me you saw it. Please tell me. All right. So, Mark, you recently just rewatched these movies. I just watched them yesterday. When did you watch them last?
So I had seen I watched Alien, I think back in like May for the 45th anniversary in theaters.
Nice.
Which was really cool. And then I just did Aliens last night. So Aliens is fresher on the brain, but I've seen Alien more times just in general, so I didn't feel as though I needed to necessarily revisit that one for this stream.
Fair enough. Yeah. And I just did like I seriously did a double feature. I'm surprised that I didn't fall asleep just because it was later on in the day.
Yeah. If I had more time, I would have definitely done that. Because obviously I love Alien and I love both of these movies, but I really love Alien and I would never take any chance to any excuse to watch that movie again. I will not shy away from.
And just for everyone also in the chat right now, or if you're watching after the fact, Feel free to drop any comments or anything that you want to say about the film, once the stream is ended. And we are going off of the theatrical cut of each film. The Alien, the original, does have like a director's cut that's, I guess it's supposed to be faster paced a little bit. Like they went in and edited it a little bit. And then, of course, James Cameron did his extended cut of Aliens that came out. I think it was 90 or 91 when they did like a re-release.
Yeah, it was like I think they call it the special edition.
There you go. Yeah, and so it's got more meat on the bone for sure. But we're just going with what was put out there in the theaters, just so fair is fair. And we've got 5 different categories, and basically we're just gonna pick the winner of each category. I'm gonna pick my winner of each category. Mark's gonna pick his, and then we'll see how it all shakes out in the end. I love Gavin. This poll is on crack. Oh my, well, I see you even it out a little bit with your vote there, Gavin. And now we have 21 votes, and it is sliding a little bit more, a little bit more even, but we'll see how it all goes. Gavin, let us know as we go through these categories. We are going to start. Let's just, how about I share all the categories right now, and then we can tackle them one by one. What do you think, Mark?
That sounds good. Let everyone know what's to come.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to start with setup and story of each film. Then we're going to move on to characters and performances. Those two are pretty tied together. Mood and atmosphere and direction. Now within the direction, it's also going to, I kind of consider cinematography, just the way the film looks, as well as like the environment that they create, the visual effects and kills, and the climax. So those are going to be our 5 categories that we are going to judge these 2 films and pit them against one another. This is the ultimate sci-fi showdown between Alien and Aliens. Which one's going to be crowned champion? I just don't know, Mark. I just don't know. All right, guys, let's see here. And if you guys want to sway with more votes, you can go ahead and send in some super chats and I'll give you more votes. Nicholas says, hey, Davey and Mark, there are 13 likes. Thank you so much, Nicholas. Appreciate you. Hope you're doing well so far. And you know what, Nicholas, though? There are 18 people in here, so I need to see that like count go up. Everybody that is watching that hasn't hit the like button, what you doing? And also, go ahead and sub over at Mark's channel if you don't already. I believe I've got, I've got the YouTube, his Instagram, and his Twitter links in the description below. So give the guy some love, and you can keep up on everything he's doing over there at his channel on Tales from the Shelf.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that.
Of course. All right. So here we go. Setup and story. So in the original Alien, we've got essentially space truckers, miners / truckers that are carrying a load through, the vastness of space. And they get woken up from their cryo sleep, because there's basically like an SOS or some sort of signal being sent from a planet that the computer on board has decided that it is imperative that they go down there and research the situation and see if they're able to help in any way. Now mayhem ensues, and despite Ripley's best attempts to keep things quarantined and safe in the ship, things did not go her way, and it becomes a complete shit show for everyone on board. And I feel like that first Alien movie kind of has, sure, there are kind of slasher elements, but to me, it always sort of felt like a haunted house movie in space. What do you have to say about that, Mark?
I hear that expression a lot, the haunted house in space thing, and I don't disagree with it. I guess to me, a haunted house is so far removed from, aesthetically anyway, what we get in Alien. The H.R. Geiger look of the space and the ship and everything, it's so industrial and like gritty that I think that my brain kind of throws up a wall when I hear that association. And it's not incorrect, because tonally that is what's happening, but I don't know. I think I kind of something about that expression. I'm just like, well, it's not quite a haunted house, but and that also implies there's like supernatural elements taking place as well. But
Sure.
that's me being very
Well,
nitpicky.
there kind of are.
Yeah,
You know,
as
it I think for me, it's maybe like the maze-like quality of the ship, like
yeah,
from the audience's perspective that like they know the ship, but we don't. So as they're walking around, you're just sort of like you almost feel like you've got no compass really. Like
that
where
is
are
true.
we in relation to everything? And where is that? There's something that could be lurking right around the corner, or maybe not. And like I kind of like I guess maybe I think of it that way because there could be a surprise around any corner. So
Mm,
yeah, but I hear what you're saying though, for sure. It does have more of a honestly to me felt a little bit more feels like 2001 A Space Odyssey meets a slasher kind of.
yeah, yeah. It's very much. I really love the I love the look of this movie, which we'll get into later. But
Mhm.
it is so impressive what they're able to do with it. It really there are very few things about it. Hey, that's where I'm from, New Jersey. Uh, represent. There are very few things about it that have aged at all. Like the movie looks amazing still. Especially having seen it in theaters. I mean, it's really impressive what they were
Mhm.
able to do with it. But so as far as our setup and our story, I really like the fact that this is not a group of shall we say like altruistic individuals. Like they're very much here to do a job. They what's Yaphet Kotto's character's name? The
Parker?
yes, he's him and Harry Dean Stanton, who's one of my favorite actors, by the way.
Mhm.
Those two are kind of buddies, and I recall them saying something along the lines of like, "Yeah, we better get like a chick for this. Like, they're not doing
Yeah.
this out of the kindness of their hearts." So it very much is a case of like these are some characters who are very relatable because they're just trying to get their job done and they want to go home
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
we feel like we can all relate to that and some shit goes down and that's what people really gravitate towards about this movie is the how the characters are just kind of just want to get their job done and that's it.
Yeah, they're just working people. It's basically like, workers' rights kind of thing of like, well, we want a share of the company if we're gonna like you're gonna pay us our regular salary and then we want something on top of that.
Right, because
And
what they're
yeah,
about to do is not in the job description. This
exactly.
investigating the signal. So they're like, if we're going to do this, you better make
Yeah.
sure we're fairly compensated because this was not agreed upon prior.
Yeah,
So
and that does sort of make this movie stand out a little bit because while there are like, there's a science officer on board and all that stuff, it's yeah, for the most part, they are kind of like grunts, like just
yeah,
truck. I just think of them as truck drivers, basically.
for
Like to
sure.
me, I mean, Harry Dean Stanton and yeah, and Parker, they were just dressed like I used to work at a warehouse, and that's exactly what the truckers looked like when they would walk in, just like a casual outfit, little baseball hat. You can tell they smoke cigarettes all the time.
Yeah.
um yeah, and then so the story in Aliens, and real quick, I want to acknowledge Gavin's chat here. He says, "Are you guys arguing for one movie?" No, what we're going to do, Gavin, is with each category, we're going to talk about how each film is represented, and then Mark and I will pick which film we think wins that category. So each one of us is going to pick a winner for each category. So yeah, in that spirit, moving on to Aliens, we basically pick up right after the end of the original Alien, and Ripley's been woken up. It's 57 years later. They've lost contact with a colony that was put on. Is it LV-224? Is that what it is, or something? I can
Something
never
like
remember
that.
the
Yeah.
number. So basically, there was a colony that was, while Ripley was floating out in space in cryo sleep, a colony was placed there on that planet, and they haven't heard from it in a while. So they're going to send in some Marines, and they want Ripley there because she's the only human who has supposedly had contact with these creatures, although they don't really believe that anything is there. They're really hesitant to believe her story at all. And once again, Ripley tries to guide and save everyone's bacon. And then it gets to a point where no one's listening to her, again. And mayhem ensues, and they're basically in a spot where either they have to blow up the planet, and then they find out the planet's just going to blow up itself no matter what. So they've got like, once the shit hits the fan, they basically have 4 hours to figure out how the hell they're going to make it out alive. And so a little bit of a different story, just to kind of contrast with what you were just saying, Mark, where now we've really delved into the whole Weyland-Yutani kind of, era of, or, that's the focus of this film. So it's the science and the weaponizing of the xenomorphs. Also the Space Marines, who they have a little bit of that grit that the truckers have, but it's a totally different kind of vibe that we're moving into. That's a little bit, whereas the first movie is just kind of like your everyman in space. This is more like people that are used to this kind of life.
Yeah, so the Space Marines are definitely a contrast from the crew of the last movie. A lot of good character actors here. So it's the way they all interact is fun. They're very machismo. You get the sense that they don't really see a lot of action. And they're not really taking the situation seriously. And as the audience, we know that the alien threat is real. So part of it is just waiting for them to realize that the problem is real, and then how woefully unprepared they will inevitably be. I find it, so this is where I'm going to start to play my hand here, as far as my thoughts on Aliens, because I do think Aliens is a really, really good movie, but I have some pretty big problems with it that, well, I wouldn't say they're huge problems, but they are what make it a big step down for me from Alien. And the first thing is sort of just the fact that this is just another movie of nobody listening to Ripley when they should be listening to Ripley.
Yeah.
And that can be very exhausting as an audience member, because we've already went through this before, and like, we know that everything she's saying is correct.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of have to wait and go through the motions and have everyone realize that she's right. So that can be a bit exhausting. And I don't really care for the Space Marines themselves. I think they're intentionally supposed to be pretty unlikable, I think. Maybe possibly with the exception of like Michael Bihn's character, who's like, he's the one who seems to kind of have his head on his shoulders. He's taking the situation a bit more seriously than some of the others, especially like Bill Paxton, who's kind of just fucking around.
He's a laugh riot. He's a laugh riot.
I mean, we all love Bill Paxton, rest in peace. But it's just, I can't get invested in those characters. They're designed to be unlikable, I think. But even so, it's hard for me to be, and you kind of don't really, you want them to get killed, kind of, versus the crew of Alien. You're watching it and you don't really want them to die, because you can I like the cast of Alien better than I like the cast of Aliens. So that's kind of my thoughts on
Well, wait, that's up next.
yeah, we'll get to that, but just so far as setup and story, there's a kind of tangentially related.
For sure. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they are, you don't really have, without your characters, you don't really have your story. So yeah, absolutely. I hear you there. Yeah, and I totally, I see what you're saying with especially because I watched them as a double feature. So it was kind of eye-opening to see Aliens right after Alien, because the contrast had never seemed so stark to me. And I think that a lot of times when people talk about Aliens, I feel like there's a little bit of Mandela effect or something. And we'll get into that as we go a little bit more. But the whole, like, it's completely action packed. Like, I think that's not true.
Nothing happens for the first hour, Davey.
So yeah. And I don't think that makes it a bad movie by any measure. I still think Aliens is great, but I do think that it's like the way that we look back, and it's, I guess, like, comparatively to the first movie, sure, it does have more action. Absolutely. But I think watching them back to back, for me, I realized, like, oh wow, like, you know, it's kind of like how T2, I feel like T2 is sort of just like a big budget remake of Terminator. And I sort of feel like with Aliens, it's like you could just not watch Alien if that's what you prefer. Because everything you find out in the first like 15 minutes of Aliens, like you could just start the story right there. Like a woman wakes up from cryo sleep and she's talking about this crazy experience she had, and the board is telling her like, we don't believe you, and but you know what I mean? She's almost like, she kind of reminded me of Roy Scheider in Jaws 2, where she's
I've
like, where
never
he's like
seen
hitting.
Jaws 2.
Oh my God, dude. It's so good. Like it has these moments where he's basically pounding the table, being like, look, I've lived through this thing before, and like, I'm not going to do it again. So I know that we have a similar problem that we had last time. And they're looking at him like, dude, you've totally lost it. Like you got lucky once with the shark. We're not going to believe you a second time. And he's basically what Ripley says to the Weyland Yutani board in the, you know, second scene of the film is very similar. Very similar vibe, kind of, where she can see that they're looking at her like, we just think you killed everyone and blew up the ship. Like, you know what I mean?
That whole meeting where she's talking and there's the chick smoking the cigarette and she's like, she says something really dumb, and Ripley's like, no, like this is what
did everyone's IQ just drop while I was in sleep?
She's like, this is what actually happened, and it's just very infuriating having to sit there and listen to these people tell them or tell her, Ripley that is, that, you know, there's no problem. And the evidence is not in her favor because it's been 57 years. There's been no follow-up. And, you know, they have no reason to believe her, essentially. So I guess I understand it, but as an audience member, there's a disconnect for me.
Yeah, I think so too. And so I guess we can just sort of get to our vote. For me, I think the original Alien wins setup and story. I like the setup and story more in Alien, and I think that you know, while the genre is a little bit different in Aliens, and I do applaud them for that, I think that that's what makes it a good sequel, is that it's not literally a retread of the same style. Yesterday when I watched them, I sort of had this realization where it's like, but it kind of is a retread in a lot of ways too. And so I can't give it the edge over the original because it's not original enough. It's not unique enough in its setup and in its story. So boom, there it is. First point goes to Alien for me on setup and story. What you got, Mark?
I'm going to agree. I think that the setup and story of Alien is just on its own an intrinsically more enticing premise because you're just the way the first Alien begins is so, it kind of sucks you in. It's very hypnotic. I don't think there's a word of dialogue for like 20 minutes or something like that. It takes a while. So you're really just getting drawn into the ship. There's all these shots of the ship, and you know, you see the ship turning on, you know, from cryo sleep and everything, and it's way more enticing. And not to mention the fact that sequels in general are sort of, they have no choice but to be sort of derivative. So, and that's something that I would say across the board for every sequel ever made, is it's going to be in some ways derivative of the original. So I give the point to Alien.
Boom, there it is. All right, Alien is off to a 2-0 lead. Oh my gosh, Gavin's going to start calling the cops on us. And look out, because he lives in the same state that you live in, Mark, so he really could call the cops.
I hope we don't annoy Gavin too much today. We have good things to say about Aliens, you know. Just be patient, it's coming. But you know, it is what it is.
And Big Rod gifted another Davey Deathray membership. Vinny Elliott, who I think is a new subscriber. I believe when Garrett from Born to Be Rad was on late night, that sort of brought Vinny over. So congratulations, Vinny. That's awesome. You get a membership and you'll get to see what it's like. Maybe we'll see you jump in the chat here and hang out. And then, oh yeah, real quick, I see T. Parker Evans, who was gifted a membership on that Wednesday there. I just watched the franchise minus the Alien versus Predator films for the first time, and my top 3 are Romulus, Prometheus, and Alien. I prefer the slow burn horror vibes over the action-packed ones. I'm very similar to that as well. Very
It's
similar
funny
to that, T.
because
Parker.
you could make the argument that Aliens is a slow burn as well. Because like we
Yeah.
said,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know, for the first hour, like
Hmm.
it's all just set up. And
That's what I.
it's like a 2 hour and 20-minute movie. And for the
Yeah.
first hour, like it's people say it's the action one,
Yeah.
but it takes and
Mm-mm.
there is action, but it takes you a
Yeah.
long time to get there.
It
So
takes you,
whether
and then there are breaks. Whenever there's a big action scene, then it's like, all right, they lock themselves in that control room and they're like game planning and figuring out what they
yeah.
need to seal the doors. And then Bishop is like, well, I'm gonna go remote the ship in, so I need to crawl through this little pipe. And there is a lot of like, that's what I realized too yesterday. I was like, man, this does have a lot more like downtime and slow burn in it than I had remembered. I think a lot of times when people talk about Aliens, they just picture like, a first person shooter like extravaganza and like, tons of, I mean, like Gavin had said here, listen guys, I'm the biggest hater of 80s action, but Aliens delivers on way more than Alien. I mean, I think in some ways, yeah, you get the queen alien and you do get to see more aliens, which is cool.
Yeah.
But ultimately, with my tastes and sensibilities as a film fan, I like the slow burn kind of thing. And not even just that, but like you and Jamie were talking about in the chat, Gavin, that, I don't think Ridley Scott is quite Kubrick because he's not as symmetrical as Kubrick
Oh
and
yeah.
all that kind of stuff. But the
We're not
slow
saying that
movement,
he's Kubrick. Yeah. It's just
but it
the
is.
space stuff.
Well, and you can, I think the influence is there. The way that they shoot space in this movie, the way you get the shots of the vastness of space and the planets all lined up and the ship moving, and then even just the camera slowly moving through as everyone's asleep. And
Yeah.
you see the little computer flicker on and all that stuff. Yeah, I don't think he's trying to go for the 2001 like exactly, but I can tell that there is a Kubrickian influence there, and
For sure. And
can't
I would
blame him because Kubrick's awesome.
and I would argue that in 1979, anybody making a film that's set in space is going to be thinking about Kubrick in some form or fashion.
Sure.
So it's almost
Yeah.
like unavoidable, especially at that time, because
Mhm.
you're only 10 years removed from 2001. So it's like really fresh for a lot of those people, I would imagine.
Yeah. And in a way, it's like you can even think about it in the context of the fact that Star Wars had just come out 2 years before. So it is like a pretty stark juxtaposition versus a space opera like Star Wars, like a totally different kind of film. Both of them take place in space.
Yeah.
Saturn Video says that whole conference scene pisses me off.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's just irritating to sit through. Yeah, but then
It,
Aaron says it's very good. So
I,
it's this is the duality right here.
it's well acted. I think it's one of those things that of course you sort of have to, if this is the story you're telling, you have to have that scene.
Right. Because the whole
I get
hook
what,
of Aliens is like, how do we get Ripley back here in a way that makes sense? Because
yeah,
realistically, she would never do this.
well, and they plant the seed in the original Alien that Wayland Yutani is not on the up and up, that
Mhm.
there is a hidden agenda, that ultimately they are after a whole bunch. Yes, of course they want you to mine all the ore and bring it back, but if they can like get some sort of weaponization or something for their technology, they're absolutely going to do that. And like Ash says in the first Alien, it's basically like the only priority was to get that organism back. So if everyone lives, okay. If everyone dies, okay. Just get the organism back was the only priority. So I think what they do, they use that as a launch pad in Aliens to be like, now that here's like the greedy corporate America. Like, it's a little bit of a kind of a commentary
Right.
on how
Yeah,
that goes.
there's so much of like the class warfare in in a lot of these films, not just these first two.
Hmm.
Um that's a good comment as well, Nick. I mean, a lot of this can just boil down to like whether you prefer action or whether you prefer horror. It
Yeah.
can be that simple for a lot of people.
Yes. Yeah,
Um,
and what you're looking for in a film, like, are you looking for, you know, like beautifully shot like scenescapes, and like, do you want those moments to like really breathe, or do you want something that feels a little more hectic and busier? There's more people in the film. for sure. And Gavin says you will be getting swatted.
Oh,
You and
goodness.
Tim Pool getting swatted. Slow
Yeah.
burn movies put Raymond to sleep. Yeah. And that's fair too. You know, if it's not your thing, I totally get it. Like, yeah, when I was a kid, I think I enjoyed Aliens more because it was more, a bit more peppy.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
all
I
right.
would agree
So,
with this big time. The Saturn Videos comment there. It's a much
yeah,
better paced film for sure.
yeah. Yeah, because it's probably closer. I don't know what the runtime is. It's probably closer to 2 hours. Whereas, yeah, Aliens is 220.
Yeah.
And man, it feels like it. Like that last 20 minutes is like a
I think
slog. Even though the
yeah.
climax, I do think the climax is awesome. I just think that I sort of wish there was some moments kind of snipped out, before that.
Apparently the special edition of Aliens is I think it's shorter. So it actually makes it a little I think it fixes some of those pacing issues. Because
Interesting.
I Googled the difference last night because I was trying to decide which one to watch.
Hmm.
And I'm
Well,
pretty
and
sure
it's
that's what
and they're like, so if that's true and they made it shorter, and then they also give you more information because, you get to learn a little bit about what Ripley's going through, having lost her daughter while she was in cryo sleep. And then you get I remember a scene where like they actually find Newt's family like dead in one of those like trucks out in the wasteland, out in the Terminator 2 wasteland that it's like every time James Cameron makes a movie, he's just like low key trying to like prep for his next movie.
he definitely carries things over from
Oh
the
yeah. Oh, for sure. The spaceship, like all the model work on the spaceship in the smaller, the little like taxi ship that they use. I'm like,
yeah.
that's very similar to the way the models look in the Terminator movies. And even what's funny is the truck that they use when they like are trying to make their way to the facility. I'm like, it looks like a Tesla truck. How funny is that?
It
It's
does
like the
kinda,
same
doesn't it?
shape and everything. All
Yeah.
right, so we've decided that setup and story is a 2-0 victory for Alien. And we're going to go over to characters and performances. So we did dip a little bit into this while talking about the setup and story. Mark, do you want to continue your thoughts? Maybe even go a little bit more in depth and tell us which movie gets the upper hand here for you.
This one is really close for me because while I said I don't like the Space Marines all that much, but I really like Ripley and Newt's relationship. That's sort of like the core of this movie. Is Ripley and Newt.
Mm-hmm.
I what's his name? Stranger Things guy.
Paul Reiser.
Paul Reiser is a really detestable piece of shit. But so much so that it's almost endearing. Like you almost come full circle and he's a guy you love to hate. I really like Bishop. I love
Yeah.
Lance Henriksen's performance as
Yeah.
the android Bishop. So there's a lot to like outside of just the Space Marines. And removing myself from the equation, I can fully acknowledge that the Space Marines are beloved by fans of this franchise.
Yeah.
Michael Biehn,
Mm-hmm.
Velasquez. I forget her real name. You've got Bill Paxton, obviously. I don't remember the actor's name, but he's from Shawshank Redemption. He plays one of like the people who's like abusing Andy Dufresne. He's in there.
He's kind of like a redhead, the slender guy.
Yes.
He's
Yeah.
Velasquez's best friend.
Yeah, those two are always like goofing around and
Yeah.
stuff. So like the cast of Aliens is there's a lot to like, but I also really love the cast of Alien. I love
Mhm.
Ripley. I love Yaphet Kotto. Harry Dean Stanton is really great. He doesn't get a ton to do, I don't think, but he plays his part well. He does what he's supposed to do. It's not like
Yeah.
he's like a standout or anything. So it's tricky, man. This one's tricky because I think that the cast of Aliens is actually a bit more standout.
Mhm.
But by design, the cast of Alien is designed to not be kind of standout. They're supposed to be pretty nondescript people, so it's kind of hard to say. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I do really like the characters in the original Alien, but yeah, there really isn't much meat on the bone for a lot of them. You
Right.
do get the time with I do love you know, Sigourney Weaver and Ian Holmes interactions are like really tense,
Yeah. And
really
Ripley's
well written.
excuse me, Ripley's almost like a side character up until like the halfway point of that movie. You know, she
Yeah,
doesn't really
go
have to step in until, a little bit later on.
yeah, going into the movie, like if you're walking into the theater in 1979, like it's sort of a little bit of a Psycho kind of thing where you're
Yeah.
probably thinking that Dallas is the lead.
Yeah.
You're just
Exactly.
assuming that the guy is the lead, you know? And because not only that, but she is also like the protocol officer. So she just has sort of like it's almost like a nerdy role within the
It's a
ship, right?
Yeah, she's sort of like the stick in the mud who's like
Exactly.
she's trying to follow all the rules and
She's the
everything.
HR rep. She's Toby from
Exactly.
The
And you're like
Office.
"Ah, this you're no fun," like get her
Yeah.
so she's definitely
Well,
gonna bite it.
yeah, and I think that's one of the things that made me appreciate Alien, like, going back as an adult and like, something that I just missed as a kid, that was her job and what that really meant and everything, and then when you know, go back watching it and catching all those things, it's like, man, she really is, like, she's completely right the whole entire time. If they did things the way that she wanted to do things, then there's really no movie because
There
everything
is
would have
no
been just
movie.
fine.
Yeah, they
Um,
would've been out of there. This whole
so
franchise wouldn't have even happened.
so it is really cool that, like, you know, she's got there's something else, there's at least with her, there is some meat on the bone there. But I think, you know, what you're saying with Aliens, I do really like the cast. I sometimes it's a little, you know, I think Cameron just leans into that whole, like, you know, he saw Predator and wanted to give people like a that kind of feel of like, 'cause
Mhm.
right, Predator was before Aliens, right? Is that right? Or was it right after?
I think
I don't even know.
Predator's 87?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Predator's 87, so this would've been after
Okay. Yeah, it is. Yep, you're right. Okay. So I guess Predator's doing an Aliens thing, but it is like going back to it, it has sort of a little over the top kind of thing going
Yeah.
on.
It's very much just an '80s thing. I wouldn't attribute it
Yeah,
to just any one film per se. I mean, there are some
yeah.
that do it more egregiously than others, but yeah, that's just sort of like a product of the time.
Yeah, but I will say this, I of course I like all the stuff with Newt and Ripley. I think it's way better in the extended cut because you understand why Ripley like really wants to have that motherly connection and, you know, care for something and like, you know, almost like if she can save this little girl, it'll be like she's making up for the fact that her daughter passed away while she was floating through space. But I think ultimately for me, um the Michael Bean with Hicks and Ripley, like I love their chemistry. The actors' chemistry is great. I think they bring like the most human moments to the film. I love Michael Bean as an actor, especially in these kinds of movies like Terminator and Aliens. I think I have no idea why he wasn't bigger. Like this guy should have like he's got chops and he's got a good look. So for me, I'm giving Aliens the point here because I think that relationship with Hicks and Ripley for me sort of puts it over the top. I do really like all the fun, like good natured ribbing and everything that the Space Marines have. It can get a little obnoxious because the movie's 2 hours, 20 minutes long and it happens a
Right.
lot, like every other scene. You know, Bill Hudson, right? Bill Paxton's character is just sort of being a total goof. It's sort of like they took Chet from Weird Science and just brought him right over
Just
to
made him a
Aliens.
space marine.
Just had him lift some weights and then like threw him in Aliens. But yeah, for me, it's really close. I do really love the characters in Alien, but I'm gonna give Aliens the edge here because of Hicks and Ripley.
I have to agree. It's super tough to say, but I think there's more characters, and I think that what they're doing with the characters is more interesting. The relationships are a little more fleshed out. You have Newt, you have Ripley. There's really nothing like that in Alien, so almost based on that alone, I have to give Aliens the point here.
Boom. Oh my gosh. I am surprised we are all tied up 2-2.
Yeah.
Alien with 2, Aliens with 2. I love how I keep on saying aliens. I don't know. I don't know why I do that.
Do
Who
you ever hear
knows?
the
Who knows?
story about how James Cameron like pitched Aliens, where supposedly he like went into a boardroom,
He just
wrote
wrote the S.
wrote alien on the whiteboard, and then he turned the S into like a money sign. I don't
It's
know
true.
if that's true, but that's like an urban legend, and I really hope that that's
That,
true because that's
that sounds like
fucking
something James Cameron would do because he's really good at marketing and all that stuff. And he's like, yeah,
yeah.
you're gonna. I mean,
He-
it, and I think it works for a lot of people. You know, people love this movie because of the. There's more aliens. There's more everything. You know.
yeah, I mean, we can talk about this later, but really, what's so great is just how, I mean, we already said it. It's just how different these are. You
Yeah.
know, if they had just tried to run back Alien, it wouldn't have worked as well. So the fact that there's, you know, this
Yeah.
this one that is decidedly doing its own thing is really cool.
Yeah, and it's also funny that like they pluralize the title, but it is almost like everything's pluralized. You know, more
That's
characters, more action, more aliens, you know,
that's
more
just how
kills.
that's how sequels were in the 80s too. So
Yeah.
it's on brand, but as far as
Mhm.
80s sequels go, you know, this is like the cream of the crop.
And it's a very Cameron kind of thing to do too. He whether
Mhm.
or not he's doing it something that's his own work or if he's taking over somebody else's work, he is always going to see like how can I just get that multiplier? Like what can I do to just do a souped up version of what's already there? And then that way you get a bunch of credit for making, you know, a great film in this franchise and you didn't have to create it or really build the world, you know.
Yeah. We can talk about that. What's the next category? Because I have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, we're gonna do mood, atmosphere, and direction. So yeah,
Okay, yeah,
perfect.
that's perfect.
We got Matt Facci in the house. What's happening, Matt?
What's up,
Back
Fetchy?
from vacation at Ocean City. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're not too sunburnt, my friend. Aaron says, I don't think she's so much of a pseudo side character in most of the movies, so much as her character takes control towards the last third.
I
Well,
would
yeah,
agree with
because
that.
she's not, and she's not allowed to. I
Yeah,
mean, it's
she's like what,
absurd.
second in command or something next to Dallas. Sorry
In
to
the
cut you off.
first movie, and yeah, in the first movie, and then in the second movie, it's like, why do you even bring her if you're not going to let her have like any say here?
Right.
Like, it's frustrating.
It's almost like, yeah, I think that's something too that's I'm just kind of realizing now is it's like, why'd you even bring her? You know, like
Yeah,
I think I have a hard time buying into Aliens because it's like, I don't know, I don't think they did a great enough job uh, you know, working her back into it because it's like, what is she
mhm.
there to consult on? Like, what's
Yeah,
say a xenomorph does show up, like, how is she supposed to consult on it? Like, and if she is going to do that, why does she have to be present for it? Like, why can't you just give them, you know, some words of wisdom and then send them on their way? Like, it's, I don't know,
exactly. Yeah,
I don't
like I'll be up in the ship. Like you
know.
guys go down to the planet.
Right? There's
I'll
really
be
no
up here
reason
in
for her
case
to
you
be
need
there.
me, and we can just walkie-talkie. I think it's almost like Riser wants her there as bait. Like Burke wants her there because he basically feels like, well, if we have her there, she's gonna know how to like lead us to this thing.
Yeah.
So
And
if they can't find it, she's gonna help us find it, even if she is unknowingly doing that, which she sort of does a little bit, you know.
yeah. And if anyone has, like, if I'm saying something that's just totally wrong, please like let me know. Like, I'm
Yeah,
open to having my mind changed. I'm open to be told that I'm wrong about something if I think I'm wrong about something. Yeah, just, you know, we're not the experts here. We're just like kind of giving our thoughts. So
yeah.
part of what makes this so fun is the discussion. So definitely feel free to chime in.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm just a big movie fan, but I'm no filmmaker and I'm no story writer.
Oh
So,
no, no. I can only speak to my own experience.
yeah, and Jamie says both movies have amazing performances. Jamie's our lone mod, by the way, here on the channel. Thank you so much for being a mod, Jamie. You are amazing. She's also seen every movie in the theater, it seems. Mark, just so you know, I'm not sure if you know Jamie Hart.
Yeah, I've seen her
Uh,
in the chat. She's a really great mod, and she keeps things on track here.
Yeah, and she says, I think Aliens has the edge on the characters because I totally believe those Marines train together and are bonded. Yeah. And Ian Holm gets special mention from the original for being awesomely detestable. He is really
Yeah.
good. And once you know that he's an android and you rewatch the film, you can see like the little subtle like idiosyncrasy kind of things within his performance that sort of like leads you on to believe that yeah, maybe there is something odd with that. That's an odd duck there that he's playing. Let's see here if anyone else has anything. They're talking about the video game. Robert's saying, "What's up to Fatchy?" It's like they want her expertise. They want Ripley's expertise, but then they don't take advantage of it. Yeah, the one guy, I think another big mistake too, and who knows, this could be that it's sort of sabotaged by Weyland-Yutani. Like they want it to go up in smoke because the guy that they put in charge of this has never done. He's only done like one drop on a planet before. It sounds like he's never led a mission before,
Yeah,
ever.
he's woefully unprepared.
Yeah, and he acts all like when they're preparing in the hangar, he acts like, all right, I want it this way, and it's going to be run tight, and it's going to be run like this. But when they know there's danger, he like freezes up on the intercom and doesn't call his troops out. He doesn't ever take action when they're in a spot where they could salvage something out of it, like maybe not save everybody, but
Yeah.
at least give themselves more of a fighting chance. And it's pretty much like he kind of puts them, behind the 8 ball multiple times here. Even when Ripley's telling him, like, this is what we should do. Like, pull your men out now, like, don't wait for the ambush. They know they're going to get ambushed. Like, they're sitting there talking about it for like a minute of screen time. And it's like, so it's coming and they don't do anything. They just sit there in the nest and wait for it to happen.
Yeah, and that's what's also frustrating about it as well, is it's just like you're watching this dude make every wrong call. Ripley's there saying what they should do. They don't do it. Like, it's not just in that boardroom meeting early on. Like, it's pretty much up until the third act. Are they just Ripley's there saying like, "I told you so," and for me, that just gets tiresome after a while.
It does. For in a movie that's 2 hours and 20 minutes, it does. If it were just 2 hours, maybe not.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think I'm definitely wrong about the special edition being shorter. I don't know what I was looking at yesterday. So I just wanted to make sure that I was acknowledging that, because
I saw T. Parker jumped in and said it's 17 minutes longer.
Yeah, so I don't know what I was looking at that I think that said something was shorter. That could have been I don't know. Maybe I was looking at Alien 3 actually. I'm not really sure. I've been doing a lot of
assembly cut.
I've been doing a lot of Alien research, so my mind gets scrambled. So
sometimes that happens. And yeah, Jamie says Gorman redeems himself when he blows himself up so others can get away. Yeah, I mean, he does have a heroic moment. He's not doing it. There's nothing like malicious about it. It's just that, he's not equipped or seasoned enough. So either the company doesn't think that there's any serious threat here, or there is something like deeper going on where the true mission is to make sure that somebody gets impregnated by a facehugger, which I think is sort of like, I think that's kind of what I'm leaning towards after watching the film yesterday, is sort of like the intention the whole entire time is that maybe Paul Reiser is the only one that needs to make it out of there with Bishop,
Yeah.
Because Bishop says in Aliens, he's like, well, Burke said that, keeping these two creatures alive is like, something we really want to try to do.
Yeah, it almost makes me wonder, like, is this like the C Squad? Like, is there another group of Marines? Is there another group of Marines out there that, like, this movie would have went totally different, like really professionals, and like they just sent the D Squad in because they didn't think it was a big deal?
Maybe even just a different squad commander, because everyone seems like relatively capable, but they really are like following every little order. Like they give up their, magazines and everything. Yes, Raymond, Ian Holmes' character and Lance Henriksen's, they're milk robots. Yes, it's true.
It's an interesting way of phrasing it, but you're not technically wrong. So
synthetic human, as Lance says, Bishop says he prefers to be called.
Yeah, artificial human.
Artificial human. There we go. Yeah, because they call them synthetics. Yeah, that's like the derogatory term. All right, so we got a tie, guys. Alien with 2 and Aliens with 2. And we're going to be heading into mood and atmosphere and the direction, the environment of the film, the way everything looks and the way that it's shot. and framed. So, you know, I already said it. Kind of, to me, I think of the original Alien as a little, you know, 2001 vibes meets a bit of a haunted house slasher kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And yeah, much more, I would say, deliberate use of camera placement and patient use of the camera, slower tracking shots. You know, you feel the claustrophobia quite a bit for, you know, pretty much everything that takes place in the ship feels claustrophobic. Um, and even like when they land on L224 or LV224, the friggin' like all the wind and like the particles, it looks like glass is just like flying through the air. It just looks like, so it like hurts me. It reminds me of when I was, you know, growing up in Alaska. Sometimes it snows and then it gets clear and the wind picks up and you're walking and the snow's being blown in your face and it feels like the snow is just like cutting your cheeks. That's like the
Yeah.
vibe I get. And then, you know, in Aliens, we've got that kind of that Cameron look of the wasteland kind of, you know, idea of like the dilapidated station on the planet, the broken down vehicles everywhere. There's the scene where, you know, one of the xenomorphs gets into their little escape ship and kills two members of the crew and the ship crashes, and it reminds me so much of T2. And yeah, I mean, it's just got a totally, I would say this might be the most stark category out of all of them, is like the way the movies look and the way they're shot. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah. So you got 7 years between these films, 79 and
Yeah.
86.
Yeah.
So, but it's ironically, I think Alien looks better. And I think part of that might be by virtue of Aliens is doing more. So there's more opportunities for them to perhaps do something that is not as subtle as what we see in Alien.
Mm-hmm.
Alien is very
Mm-hmm.
subtle, everything's very deliberate. And Aliens, yeah, is got a lot more going on. You mentioned all the burned down cars and everything.
Yeah.
Aliens is doing a lot in like the visual storytelling department. You know, that's something Cameron does really well, where he's showing you he's a show don't tell kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you see all those burned out, you know, vehicles and everything, and your mind kind of fills in the blanks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to mention that neither of these guys are slouches, right? Like, this is a close race. James Cameron and Ridley Scott are both, you know, are veterans. So for me, atmosphere wise, mood, I give it to Alien. I'm gonna probably just bury the lead here and just and come
There
out
you
with
go.
that. But that's not to say that it's close necessarily. I really,
Mm-hmm.
because I do like what's going on with Aliens as well. Where do you kind of, what's your opinion here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's sort of like that. I mean, this might tilt the scale for every single person out there, is like the way the movies look, the way the movie looks and the way it's shot, because Cameron is more of that slick guy, little more action heavy. Doesn't most of like back in this time, he didn't have to build the world here. He just sort of had to, you know, postulate like where the story could go next. So he didn't
Mhm.
have to, you know, create it like he created the look and feel of Terminator, and of course, you know, later on with Avatar. So I do think that, you know, if the commercial kind of middle of the road look and feel of filmmaking is more your speed, then you're definitely gonna go with Cameron here, because it's a little more accessible for sure. Um, but I prefer Ridley Scott in this world.
Yeah.
I think Alien has way more, like, I basically agree with Aaron right here that it kind of wins by a landslide for me. I do, like, I
Yeah.
think that Aliens looks great, and I don't think I have no issues with the direction and with the way it all looks. I'm glad that it stands apart. I think that's one thing that I'll always love about Aliens, and why I think it's one of the best sequels of all time, and why it's a great follow-up to the original, is that it stands on its own. It carves its own place out. You guys hear me say that a lot, whether it's talking about the content we create here on the channel, or if it's just like, you know, wanting a film and a franchise to not just get lost in the pack. And I think that Cameron does a really good job here of making sure that his film is remembered. But I do prefer the mood and the atmosphere and the direction of Ridley Scott. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So just for me and my sensibilities, yeah, it's Alien all day long. But when I try to remove myself from the equation, I do think it's a little closer perhaps than we would like to admit. And as far as like Cameron and his direction, you know, you can see echoes of it in his in the Avatar films. You know, like the Wayland Yutani thing is very reminiscent of, you know, the planet the what I don't remember the name of the company in Avatar, but the people who are trying to monetize Pandora, basically.
Yeah.
That's something thematically that's in like almost all of his films. You know, you look at The
Yeah.
Abyss. It's very much like, you know, man versus nature. The you know the idea of wanting to preserve the planet and like not you know the you know I'm trying to think of the word. Basically, just when
Conservationist.
yeah,
Like
exactly,
conservation.
and just like overdeveloping everything. You know, you can see that as far back as Aliens. So Cameron is definitely. I can see why he was attracted to this world and like you know what they're doing with Wayland Yutani and everything. But yeah, they're both great directors. They both direct the shit out of these movies. Aaron Click has a really great comment where he says in Alien, yeah, you feel uneasy before there's even a reason to. That's a really great point.
Yeah.
And I think that almost is kind of the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, you're sort of like, you know, that something, you get that sense of foreboding, but you don't really have an idea of like when or what. And the audience is in the same position as the entire crew.
Yeah,
Other than Ash.
basically.
Ash is the only one that knows really what's going on.
Right.
So and I think that's another thing that makes it great when you rewatch it, is when you're like, oh, the whole entire time he really is just doing whatever it takes. And he at first can be really subtle about it. And then when, you know, once he realizes that there is going to be a little bit of resistance, then he's got to try to, you know, put an end to that as well. Yeah, it's that's true. Yeah, you do have that that sense of foreboding, that dread that builds up. And Allie, I'm sure I missed you, but I hope you have great sleep and an awesome Monday coming up here. One of our great channel members, Allie Girl. Love Allie Girl. Let's see here. Raymond says, seems like all of Cameron's movies make about $1 bazillion. Yes, he's very successful. He's really damn good. I mean, you know, can't take anything away from him. Literally.
No. I was a person who, before the second Avatar movie came out, I was someone who was saying, you know, nobody wants this. This isn't going to do well, you know, and I ate my words in every sense and every possible way that you can eat them.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I think
don't bet against James Cameron is the moral of the story.
Well, and especially something like Avatar, like even, and I know it was successful here, but I think like, you know, one thing he's really good at is making things that are like attractive in every market. You know, like a movie like Aliens is going to do well all over the world. A movie like Avatar is going to do well all over the world. Like you know, he's really good at bringing in a global audience for sure. And real quick before we move on, Happy Sanjo, our guy Koi, who recently started a channel, everyone. Happy Sanjo just uploaded his second video today. It's a long legs rant. Koi, I've been catching up on some stuff today, so I haven't been able to check it out. And I'm scared that you're going to tear apart a movie that I really, really enjoyed in the theater. But I'll check it out, absolutely. And Koi gifted a membership, and it went to Jess Yellow, who I don't know if I've seen Jess in one of the chats, but apparently she is a subscriber. So Jess, I hope you are happy to get that email that you're a member, and check out some of the perks we've got here. All right, so we are. Aaron says, I really like the Avatar series. I think it gets unfairly gets shit on. Yeah, I mean, I think anytime something's successful, there are going to be people that are like, it's not a big deal, it sucks. I mean, I totally get it, especially all the Ferngully space talk and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, so many stories are similar. It's like only so many stories you can
Yeah.
tell. So it's about how creative you are with the details. Like the Star Wars story, everyone knows, is a story that's been told since the beginning of time. It's the same thing that Harry Potter did, but it's how you go about creating the world, telling the story, and creating characters that are memorable and lovable. And then also maybe throw in a couple surprises towards your audience. So yeah, I totally get it. People are going to shit on it. And I think some people like to shit on Cameron because he is sort of like middle of the road, slick Hollywood director, But the guy is impressive. I mean, I said it on a stream maybe last week where I think like stylistically, like, I really like somebody like Carpenter doing the visuals and then writing the music and everything. But as far as like, I think what Carpenter's done for filmmaking, like stylistically, is incredibly influential for people like in horror and all that kind of stuff. But what Cameron's done with the technology side of film, like film would not be where it is without somebody like James Cameron. They created Photoshop for The Abyss and then brought that over to Judgment Day. So we wouldn't even have Photoshop if it weren't for a movie. Like that's that's what got it into all of our households. And then, everything he's done with Avatar, whether or not you like the story, it's a technical marvel. So
Yeah.
it's really, really, I can't hate on the guy. I can say that I prefer a Ridley Scott movie over one of his movies,
Yeah.
but that's certainly not hate by any means.
No, you really can't take anything away from him. He's incredibly innovative. He's, he's very committed, and he has not switched up. He's been about this conservation shit since 1986, and he's still banging that drum through his own IP with the Avatar film. So it's that's he's very consistent is what we'll say.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, he's made some of the most successful films of all time. Like if you took the top 5 grossing films, he's got at least 2 of them, right? Titanic and Avatar have got to be in the top 5 highest grossing films of all time. And he could have more. I don't know. Maybe T2's in there somewhere if you adjust it for inflation. I don't know.
Could be.
Now this one coming up next. So we're at you voted Alien on this one as well, right?
Yeah, so it should be
All
4-2.
4-2. Okay. So visual effects slash kills. You don't see many of the kills here really in detail, but they do sort of lean into the visual effects side. Plus, Mark, you and I both kind of run horror channels for lack of a better term. So I figured we might as well work some kill action into the stream as well. So what do you think about the visual effects and kills in each one of these films, and how do they sort of stand apart, or how are they similar to you?
So this one, it's hard to say that. God, how do I put this? The chestburster sequence from Alien is iconic. It is possibly top 10 horror movie kill of all time, maybe top 5. I mean, and from a VFX standpoint, it's very impressive. I'll take a quick aside here to say, I find the Titanic extremely fascinating. And so for Cameron's been down there like 30 times, which is crazy. He has the record, and like, that's how
he has every record.
he loves it. He's responsible for scanning like every inch of that thing.
It's amazing.
Like he's mapped it all out.
Guys, I'll get James Cameron on an episode of Late Night with the Davey sometime soon. How about it?
But
yeah, right.
Anyway, from a VFX standpoint, just that chestburster kill alone is very impressive. It's extremely impactful. It's executed so well. I wish I could be someone who's watching that movie for the first time and like not knowing what's about to happen, because like we know now with the gift of hindsight, you go into a film like Alien Romulus and you're like, there's going to be some sort of chestburster scene because it's an alien movie. But like at the time, that was that was extremely novel. And like you've seen some form of it in each Alien movie since, but like nothing hit
Mhm.
quite as hard as that first time. Um, so and what do you, what do you think of the kills in Aliens? Like I can't point to one that's like
Yeah.
extremely half as
Mhm.
memorable as that one from Alien.
I was surprised that how much cutaway there was in Aliens. I would have figured that a movie from '86, because I mean it's an R-rated film, I would imagine, because of what it shows and the language. So I'm just like, why are they cutting away? It seems like Cameron almost there are a lot of moments where it's like he just copies what Ridley Scott did in the first film, where you get this rule of thirds close up of the alien, where maybe the head's like off to the left or off to the right, and
Mhm.
you get that like slow, like spit kind of shot, and the lips curl back, and the thing comes, and then that's it, and you just hear the person scream, and you don't actually see like impact. And I feel like that's what Ridley kind of just did that in the first movie. And I understand it a little bit more in 1979 that you're not going to show all the gore in the world. I think maybe I think Harry Dean Stanton's kill, you do sort of see a little bit of the impact. But I think they kind of pull back a little bit on that later on in the film. And yeah, in Aliens, I was, again, maybe Mandela effect, maybe just the way that people talk about aliens and you hear people say these things. I was sort of surprised that there was like hardly any gore other than the chest burster scene where they gotta, where it comes out. It does look like they used a bigger animatronic. Like I think the alien that burst out of that woman that's like sealed up in the webbing or whatever. Like I think the animatronics like a little bit better looking and
Yeah.
everything than
Well,
the
because
original chest
technology
burster.
had
And it's a
improved.
little bigger. It's more like, I would say, I don't know if you guys can really tell what I'm doing here with I would say in the original one it looked slender, and then the one in this movie in Aliens looks a bit bigger, and then they torch it right up, right? And that's
Mhm.
about as graphic as it gets. Unless you count Bishop getting ripped in half, which I don't, because it's just a bunch of milk spilling everywhere. um,
That
so
fucking
yeah, I was actually kind
space
of
milk.
shocked. I was kind of shocked. I thought that in my memory, I guess I figured there was more blood, but yeah, even in the scene where they get ambushed, it's a lot of like shaky cam um off-screen kills and just hearing people scream.
Yeah, it's and I think that's by it comes down to the nature of these two films where one is action, one is horror,
Hmm.
and as a result, the action's going to have kills, but it's like how impactful are those kills? How cool are those kills? And that's
Hmm.
what I think we're discussing here.
Yeah.
Um yeah, and I also believe that for 79 for Alien to look as good as it does,
Yeah.
I think that's just
Hmm.
more impressive.
Yep.
Aliens is doing more, but
Hmm.
it was 7 years later, so they had the benefit of more money and technology
Yeah.
was better. So yeah, I gotta give this one to Alien as well, man. I
Yeah.
think Alien does both of these things better. And if it's I think it's also just more impressive given what they had to work with at this time.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna get into my thoughts here, but I do have to acknowledge Necro's chat here, because when you're saying we all know, because the gift of hindsight, and I wanted to say the
Yeah,
gift of Spaceballs, because I actually saw Spaceballs before I saw Alien.
same. Yeah, I
Um,
was a kid
and s-
watching Spaceballs because I like Star Wars as a kid,
yeah,
and my stepdad showed me Spaceballs, and I'm like, I don't understand that. What is that all about?
yeah, and I mean it's crazy because they got John Hurt to be in Spaceballs, so it really
Oh
is
yeah,
him.
that's hilarious. It is
It
him, isn't it?
like maybe that's one of those things where when you're Mel Brooks, you can pull that, because I always think of John Hurt as just like one of the great actors of his generation. Like he was in, 1984, he's in Alien, he's in gosh, I'm totally blanking on another movie that was just on the tip of my tongue. I know he was in the Harry Potter series like later on in life and everything like that. But he just to me has this distinguished British actor kind of vibe. So not only do I think it's awesome that he's in the original Alien, it's incredible that Mel Brooks got him to do the same
Yeah.
thing, and that line delivery of Not again. Like it's just
I haven't seen
um
Spaceballs in over a decade or
oh
more,
man.
so I need to
I'm a
revisit that.
Yeah, I'm a huge comedy guy, and Spaceballs is one of my favorites for sure. And especially for Mel Brooks movies, I don't think it gets any better than Spaceballs. I know everyone loves Blazing Saddles. I like parody a little bit more. Like Blazing Saddles to me is more of like a straight like a comedy movie, whereas like Spaceballs is the parody, and I kind of like that vibe
Yeah.
from Mel Brooks. But I will say this about the effects. I completely agree with you about just how impressive everything looks. Again, the shots of like the planets all sort of lined up as they fly up to LV 224. The slowness of like the movement when they're down there on the planet. Like I feel like all the models look really good and really believable. The
Mhm.
size and the weight of them is like, to me, with when it comes to visual effects, the weight of that cargo ship they're on, like it, I can feel it, even though it's technically weightless in space, right? Like I can just sort of feel like how heavy it is because of how like slow it seems to be moving. And there's something about in Aliens, while they do have some really good matte paintings, there are some rear projection shots in there that really haven't aged well. Um, I think it's Alien is aged better. And
Definitely.
then I gotta say, like, I've been waiting all chat. I've mentioned this a couple times, but I've been waiting until we get to this topic to really bring this up. I do think that the models that Cameron uses for the spaceships, like when they're on the planet, seem like um, flimsy, and I don't feel the weight in them. And honestly, like all things considered, it seems kind of cheap. And he did a way better job. I mean, he certainly improved on that kind of thing. And that just sort of took away from my experience watching the film yesterday. So I do think a lot of the other effects are great. I think the xenomorphs look awesome. I love the queen alien, looks really cool. I love that giant head she's got and that
The
big
cargo
old,
loader.
yeah, the big old gross tube of all the eggs. Like it is really gnarly. And I love that they, now the xenomorphs, instead of just like in the first movie, you're like, oh, the chances of this happening are 1 out of a gazillion. But then in Aliens, they're basically telling you, actually, the way these things run when they're able to like live a little more freely, they're kind of like ants. Like they've got this queen, and you know they work in packs and to serve the queen. So I do like how they've done, you know, that with the, you know, the visual effects on the creature building and everything like that. But ultimately, I'm going Alien with this one. I think Alien is timeless to me. It just looks so damn good.
Yeah.
And certain things in Aliens sort of took me out for a moment or two, or I just recognized that it could have been done better, especially with how good most of the film looks.
Yeah, the when the Marines are like suiting up, their like armor looks a
Mhm.
little. First of all, it looks kind of just hokey in general, but it also kind of was giving like a cheap. It looked a little like, I don't know. It felt kind of cheap.
Mhm.
And then yeah, so the effects in Aliens are good. I just want to make sure that the audience is clear on that. They are good. The problem is that it's being compared to Alien, and that's
Yeah.
where it just simply is not measuring up.
Mhm.
A quick little trivia thing: when they are in Alien, when they're in the space jockey like ship, those and then they're in the spacesuits. Those people in the spacesuits are played by children,
Yeah.
and so to create the scale that makes everything else look so much bigger.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of innovation on Ridley Scott's part,
Mhm.
as far as how they were able to get some of those effects to look as good as they did, and it's really simple stuff like that. So,
Mhm.
and so things like that. I have to give it to Alien.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think yeah, for me, it's kind of a no-brainer, and I think Aliens could have won this category for me if the kills weren't cut away. I could have I could have dealt with the ships not looking as cool as I thought they could have looked, because I love the Terminator, and I think, you know, in the Terminator it's sort of similar to when he shows his apocalyptic part of, LA in the future after Judgment Day. I do think, yeah, there's that little bit of weightlessness kind of feeling, like a little plasticky. And I think that carries over to this movie. But man, if they just had done some like really good kills, I think that I probably would have given the nod to Aliens here. But yeah, as far as everything we've discussed here, it's going to be Alien for me. And I do want to pop up this chat here from our great channel member Raymond Malaber. Says the alien coming out of the water behind the girl behind Newt still freaks me out more than the chest burster scene. I do think that moment's really, really good. I think the chest burster scene is more impressive as like a technical marvel. But as far as like a creepy moment, I do think it's one of the best moments in the film, Raymond. That is an iconic shot, and I think that they made improvements on the xenomorph suit in the sequel. I think sometimes the certain shot, like I say for the most part in Alien, the xenomorph looks fantastic. There are just a couple times where it does look maybe a little bit too human. And I think that's why they shrouded it in more darkness in the original.
They don't show it as much, yeah.
Yeah, maybe even taking a little bit of a nod from the shark not working so much in Jaws that ended up being a blessing more than a curse for the film, that sometimes like what your brain fills in is a little scarier. But yeah, that shot of the xenomorph coming up in the sewer or in the basement behind Newt, fantastic. The scene with them getting on the alien ship, the egg scene, the space jockey, so many great effects. Yeah. Every shot of the ship, like I love it. I love every shot of as they're flying through space. Like I just eat that shit up. I don't know what it is. Elephant Man. Yes, thank you so much, Aaron. That's another that's one of the John Hurt movies. Yeah, I was thinking about one. Probably mostly to do with Mel Brooks being the producer of I had no idea that Mel Brooks was the producer of The Elephant Man. All right.
I did not know that either.
Blazing Saddles is time period satire in my book for sure. And I guess I meant just like a direct parody, like when Brooks like, doing like Robin Hood, which is like, we've seen those movies before. Like I like Robin Hood, Men in Tights, and Spaceballs quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's only a model.
Blazing Saddles is more like spoofing Westerns in general, where something like Spaceballs is like very clearly Star Wars, which is a more recognizable IP.
And T. Parker, yeah, he's basically, you guys are on the same page here, Mark. Very impressed with how incredible Alien looks to this day. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's a movie that 45 years later still looks better than a lot of the shit that we're getting today. So,
yep. Yeah. The loader that Ripley fights the alien with effing rules. We are about to get to that because our final category, everyone. And, maybe we might have lost a few of the people that are really gung-ho on Aliens, Mark, but we still got Raymond in here and he's a big Aliens fan. So I feel pretty good about that.
I mean, look, I'm trying my best to be extremely fair to each of these films and removing my bias and looking at things as objectively as possible.
It was tied after the first two rounds, so I think we're being pretty fair. For sure.
And
and we've made it very clear that we love both of these movies.
That's the biggest thing. It's like comparing Godfather and Godfather 2. It's like, how do you split hairs with two masterpieces,
Well, and it's even like that's one of the reasons when Fatchy and we do our start bench cut show. And like the idea is to pick three things that it's really tough. It's really tough to be like, this one starts, this one is benched, and this one cuts. You might love all three of those things, right?
Right.
But that's kind of like the whole point of this is like, this is a flip a coin kind of thing, I think, for most folks out there. And yeah, we were just getting to kind of, put a cap on it for everyone hanging out with us in the chat. So yeah, Jamie, we've got the climax coming up. As you were talking about with the loader, which I think is a really cool like take on a forklift. Like that's how the forklift has evolved, is just a mech suit. That's pretty badass. I would definitely want to be a forklift operator if I could wear a mech suit for sure. And so yeah, guys, we are going to get into the climax of each film. So I think the original Alien, the climax sort of like it's so like smooth how they transition into the climax, and it's got such a good pace, like because you've got Parker, Ripley, and I'm totally forgetting the other crew member's name. But they're basically like Harry Dean Stanton. No, he gets killed way early on. So it's just the three of them. It's like the woman that gets the blood all over her face when John Hurt has
Oh
the chest burster come out.
God,
I can't remember her
yeah.
name.
What's her name?
And Parker and then Ripley, and it goes sideways really quick for Parker and the other crew member. And like, just like that, like you think that maybe it's going to take a little bit of time. But I feel like the climax in Alien sort of like really gets moving. And once Ripley's alone, it turns into this kind of cat and mouse game. Like she's already set the ship to self-destruct. She tries to turn it off like right on time. And the ship's like, nope. Whether or not that's malicious by Mother or that she just didn't push up the two things in time. But
Yeah.
she's trying to avoid the alien. She's trying to turn that off so she has more time to try to kill the damn thing, and then realizes she's just got to get back to the ship and hope everything's okay. I love the way that the alien, the way the xenomorph is like hidden within the walls and sort of like kind of taking a nap, like hoping that it doesn't get recognized. Like
Yeah,
all I
because
need to do is get on.
it's
It's
trying
just
to
trying to
ride it
survive.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't even really want to kill her at that point. It just doesn't even want to be noticed. Which
Right.
I think is, and it fits the way they design the ship, of course, like when its head is down, like it just looks slick, just like everything else that's inside of the ship. And then in the, the climax of Aliens, they've been told that, the planet's going to blow up, or the whole colony is going to blow up within 4 hours. So, again, they're on a time crunch similar to the first film. And Ripley wants to save Newt, who was captured by the alien that Raymond had brought up that sneaks up under the water. So Ripley's like, I'm not leaving this girl behind. So she's dead set with like 12 minutes left, needs to find this thing. And that's when they find the queen, and stuff gets a little complicated. And they've got to fight that queen like on the big ship. And she pulls out the mech suit. So pretty, a couple beats feel like are sort of similar on paper, but a totally different climax for each movie as far as like levels of action go.
Yeah,
For sure. What do you
for
think,
sure.
Mark?
So the conclusion of Alien feels more in line with what that movie is, which is, at the end of the day, structurally, it's a slasher film. So yeah, I really like the end of Alien. The impending doom, the ticking clock aspect of the ship gonna detonate, it being her versus the alien. You kind of, as the audience, we know that things aren't, everything's not good, but she thinks that everything's good. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, Lambert. So she thinks everything's good. She's getting ready to go into cryosleep again, and then she notices that things are not good still. So I think I might give the edge to the climax in Aliens, because narratively it's more satisfying for Ripley's character. Because that's one thing I will say about Aliens, is that Aliens fleshes out Ripley's character a lot. And if we're just looking at Alien in a vacuum, she's not the most compelling character. She's just a lady who's trying to do her job, trying to make sure she does things the right way, and she finds herself in this situation. And
Yeah.
her character gets fleshed out more as a mother, and she takes on that mother role, having lost her real daughter, and she takes on this surrogate daughter. And then conversely, you have the juxtaposition of the queen alien, who was also a mother. So it's sort of like
Yeah.
this battle.
Okay.
It's
Wow.
sort of like
Yeah.
this battle of the mothers, right? So I think narratively and character, thematically, all that stuff, the climax of Aliens has more going on. And if you're not looking at Alien 3, it's more of a happy ending, because the
Sure.
two of them find each other, and Newt and Ripley, that is, and everything's good. So I think I'm going to give the climax point to Aliens on this one.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do the same thing. That's funny. So we basically ended up voting voting the exact same way here. And I'm gonna give it to Aliens because it is more action packed. I think the stakes are bigger because there are other lives that she's trying to save for sure. Newt and Hicks, and even Bishop, who she started the movie as somebody that was basically like an ist against synthetic folk,
Yeah, good
and
point
she
there too.
finds that it really is just like it really kind of comes down to programming, right? And this guy
Right.
wasn't programmed to, luckily he wasn't programmed to like deceive and ensure that the aliens live. He was following orders when Burke communicated that to him, but it wasn't something that was like ingrained in his information. So, and then I never really thought about it that way with the with the queen alien and that sort of juxtaposed against Ripley as a mother as well. But it is really cool that, Ripley's basically like, with a look communicates to the queen, like, I'm going to torch your eggs if you don't call off your goons. And
Yeah.
the queen alien like hisses at the two aliens and they're like, sorry.
Yeah.
And like, I thought that was a cool like moment of understanding that shows that like there is, these creatures are very smart, even though they don't voice their thoughts. They
Yeah.
can't articulate them vocally
They
through
are very
language.
smart. Yeah. They're
Yeah. So I
very
thought that was,
they're aware of their mortality, and they take strides to make sure that they will survive. That's what they want to do, is make sure that their species
yeah.
continues to exist. So like they're always
Yeah.
doing that is really
That's
interesting.
That's what one of the things Ash says in Alien. He's like, they're like, I admire their purity. They're survivors.
Mhm.
And I think that's like the really all you need to know about the xenomorph. And that also explains why the xenomorph in Alien tries to just hide in the wall and be camouflage and just like basically put itself in a sleeping state. Because I think even when its arm like flies out, when Ripley's right next to it and the arm like falls down, to me that doesn't seem intentional. It's almost like when you get that little shake when you're falling asleep. You know what I mean? It's like, to me it's like
Yeah, he was dreaming.
yeah, the
Dreaming that he
alien
was
is like
falling.
the alien is that smart. The xenomorph is that smart and that intended on just purely surviving, like live to fight another day if you have to. And I think that in Aliens we get a little bit more of that, another layer on that. And of course the friggin' mech suit. I mean, fighting in the loader and the, as Raymond said here, get away from her, you bitch. Like the way this
Yeah.
everything is great,
It's an iconic line, man, and
yeah.
Sigourney delivers it with such, gravitas, and it's like
Hmm.
you really buy into it, you really buy into like her maternal nature.
Hmm.
That's a good point from Aaron. Her being on her own, definitely, she's the last lady standing. That there is
Yeah.
something to be said for that as well.
Yeah, and
Um,
the strobes and the steam, like I do think there's really I really love the climax in Alien, but I do think that the sequel does get the edge. It's one of the things that I think the sequel just really gets right.
yeah, it's a razor sharp. It's like so close. It's so close. But
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing for me, the biggest factor is how much the climax plays into fleshing out Ripley's character more.
Yeah, and closing out the theme. Like
Right.
the whole, and that's it really is too bad that the theatrical version doesn't have the tidbit about her daughter passing away, because I think that really that's something that you can communicate to an audience in 10 to 15 seconds,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
it's
that
gonna
was
it really is gonna bookend everything, and it's gonna make the Newt thing make more sense, and even maybe even make the Hicks thing like a little more poignant as well, because they clearly have like a really good chemistry and sort of like a low-key romance that's just like you figure they would hook up after this. I don't know.
yeah, I was looking for that on my rewatch, that the anecdote about her losing her daughter or whatever, and it's I forgot, it's just not in the theatrical cut. So I actually had to look that up. That was like the alien research I was doing, was like
Yeah,
what's
it's
in what
wild.
cut, like what's
Mhm.
not. And yeah. I hate that
Yeah,
there's so many cuts of movies, man, because it's like, when am I
yeah.
it's, it's like I have to watch this one, and then I have to watch
And
that one, and then I have to decide which one I like more.
sure.
It's
Well,
a
and
lot. It's a lot of work.
who made that decision to take that out? I know it pissed off Sigourney Weaver quite a bit. Like she didn't even want
Yeah,
to come back to the third movie, like based on that. She's like, you kind of like cut the legs out for my character, like something that was really important that you just, for
yeah.
whatever reason, took away. You know?
That's like the heartbeat of the film. At when you peel
Yeah.
back the Space Marines and
Hmm.
the 50 xenomorphs, like that's
Yeah.
what that's your character shit. Like that's what people will latch on to.
Yep.
At the end of the day, the people who are looking for more than just action. You know,
Yeah. And all the Newt stuff is great, but again, it's 10 to 15 seconds to explain that I think would even set this film apart, more than
yeah,
it already is set apart from the original. And yeah, like you said, it's almost like in each act of the movie, the mother thing comes into the whole story. In the beginning, she finds out her daughter's dead. In the middle, she meets Newt. At the end, she saves Newt and has to defeat the mother of the aliens.
yeah,
And then it's like poetry. It rhymes, as George Lucas
exactly,
says.
exactly. Yeah,
I love Chad's got a couple great quotes here. Elevator going, or elevator to hell going down. How do I get out of this chicken shit outfit? And I love Apone is just every time he opens his mouth with that dirty unlit cigar in it, he's just cracking me up too. Love the sergeant. And then of
yeah.
course Game Over. And I think is it Mandela effect or is it just me where I think a lot of people think that he says game over during the ambush. And it actually happens right after the spaceship, right after the shuttle crashes. I
Hmm.
don't know if that's something that maybe was just in my own head or something that it seems like that was for a lot of people that's tied with the ambush scene, but it's not.
Yeah, you might be onto
Um,
something there.
T. Parker says he's going to give the climax to Alien. Pretty shocked there was more coming. Meanwhile, with Aliens, I was waiting for that specific third act scene to happen with that iconic line due to pop culture.
Yeah, see, for me with Alien, I you just know that that there's still more trouble coming. Like I don't
Yeah,
buy that she's just gonna get in the cryo sleep
sure.
and
Yeah.
everything's gonna be good. Like you kind of I don't know. I think the fact that I can't remember a time really before Alien. Like I watched this pretty young, so like
Hmm.
it's hard to really say, having been aware of the movie for so long. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good point from
Yeah.
Jamie as well. Nude is tough.
Yeah. Newt's off. She's got that little apartment. She's got boxes of food in
Yeah,
there.
she was chilling in there. Everything was going great until the Marines came.
Yeah,
No, it
exactly.
was not going great. I'm totally kidding.
Well, and what's hilarious though is even Newt would have been a better consultant than, or she would have been just as good of a consultant as Ripley. As far
Yeah,
as like get your guys out of there. Like
yeah,
I'm living proof that this is really difficult. Everyone else is dead. Like,
yeah.
game over, man. Game over. I can't make my voice crack on command, but I love that his voice cracks and that they kept it. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, Paxton is almost giving too much, I feel like. But it's like
Well,
you don't cast
yes.
Paxton without, expecting
It
that.
is the same delivery every time he does. It's this like crescendo of ridiculousness
Mhm.
every single time. Like he does. It is nice that he's got a job to do and that Ripley is like, listen, I need you to like do your job and not freak the fuck out right now. And she's like, are you listening to me? And he's like, yeah, okay. He actually does pull focus and he is able to help them get to the point where they can seal up the doors and all that stuff. But he still, anytime something bad goes on, he does revert back to losing it essentially.
Yeah,
So
but it's a
so
realistic
yeah,
portrayal too. Like I'm
yeah.
sure that's probably how many people would react. So
I mean, man, once they find out they have like 4 hours left, and then of course when they find out that Burke tried to compromise Ripley and Newt, like everyone just wants to blow his head off, at
yeah,
that point. Exactly. Why don't you put her in charge? Yeah, Raymond, R.I.P. Bill Paxton, Ian Holm, and Yafet Kodo.
and Harry Dean Stanton.
And Harry Dean Stanton. That's
I th-
right.
Yeah, a lot of
And
these. I think Veronica Cartwright might be passed. Yeah,
John Hurt.
and John Hurt. God.
Yeah, he died in 2017. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's just how life goes, you know, time goes on, and unfortunately, we all have to experience that, and we can't live forever. So, yeah, but it is, thank you for bringing it up, Raymond. You know, it is nice to, when you're celebrating or talking about these movies, you should also celebrate the people that made it happen behind and in front of the camera. You know, it's making movies is really difficult stuff. Let alone to make movies that people are talking about 45 and 38 years later, you know. So yeah, it's pretty incredible. We still got Lance though. Still got Lance.
we still got Lance. We
Right?
still got Sigourney.
There we go.
Yes, Lance Henriksen hasn't
I think
passed.
so. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love Lance Henriksen. I think he's great.
he's great.
Friggin'
Yeah,
love Pumpkinhead. Just,
dude. I
you
was
know,
just gonna say I'm due for a Pumpkinhead rewatch probably this October. I'll pop that in.
you know, I'm gonna watch, because I don't know if he's still in the chat, but Eli Cortez sent me a steel book of Pumpkinhead just the
Is
other
it
week.
is it
So
the blue one?
let me show you.
Because I think I might have the same one. Oh yeah, dude. I have that same one. It's badass, dude.
It's still sealed. I'm like, I don't even want to
Oh
open it until I
shit.
watch it. But I think I'm gonna wait till October as well. That'll be that, because it's just such a Halloween season kind of movie.
Hell yeah, dude.
But moving on to the total here, the tally, and the winner is. Were you keeping a tally?
If my math is correct, it should be Aliens 6, Aliens 4.
Yep, that is right.
Yeah,
All
so
right. So, and
so
the winner
close.
is,
Pretty close.
yeah, a lot closer than I thought it would be.
Yeah. Yeah, for the
Because
audience, we had no idea how this was going to shake out. We kind of
yeah,
had to figure it out for ourselves as we went along.
yeah, and when we were like just chatting offline about it before we, you know, did the stream, you know, Mark had mentioned, he was like, I've got some hot takes on Aliens. So I was like, oh, like, is Mark gonna be like a little meaner to aliens than like maybe I would? So I am pretty surprised that we literally voted the same exact way.
Yeah.
But I think it makes sense. I mean, you know, we're being pretty fair here, and I think we gave Aliens plenty of its flowers, even if it didn't win the
Absolutely.
category.
That's he's getting up there.
Yeah,
And that's,
Secret Candid.
as an aside, you know, that's something that I love about cons is getting the chance to meet these people
Yeah.
who
Yep.
are so important to so many of us. You know,
Yeah.
I got to meet Chris Sarandon from Fright Night. I've gotten to meet Dick Warlock.
Child's Play. He's awesome in Child's Play too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I met Dick Warlock, who is getting up there in age, but he's
Yeah.
you know, he famous for playing Michael Myers in Halloween 2.
He was Kurt Russell's you know, stand-in and stunt guy
Yeah.
forever. He's been in so many movies. Dick Warlock's amazing. Yeah.
I've been lucky enough to meet a good amount of people. I would definitely like to meet Lance Henriksen if I ever got the opportunity. But yeah, it's really cool.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I love the con culture as well. It's a great way to connect with those folks, like you said. And I think it's like, you know, it's just wild to, it sort of helps you come to terms with like how important these things are. You know, their stories, and in a way it's just an extension. I think of film and television as like an extension of literature. Like, human beings at first were, you know, telling stories around campfires and doing cave paintings, and then it, you know, it evolved from there. And film is, you know, so far it has been the apex for decades. And so it is really cool that you can meet somebody and that their work has had a profound effect on you, you know.
Yeah.
You know, their fantasy kind of job, but do you realize how much work really goes into it, and how difficult it really is? You know, of course some people are just gifted naturally, but it's always work no matter what.
Yeah, it's really cool because like you hear stories about actors who maybe didn't have the most esteemed career after this
Mhm.
horror movie they did in the 80s. But
Yeah.
then when they find out how much, like, to a lot of people, they're celebrities, and
Yeah.
there are people who love the movies that they're in, and
Mhm.
they maybe work like a 9 to 5 now, and it's like for
Yeah.
a weekend they get to go to like Monster Mania, and
Yeah.
they're like Tom Cruise. So like
Yeah.
things like that really make me happy because it's like these people shouldn't like I think like Lucio Fulci died before his films, like just as his films were really starting to like
Mm.
pick up a cult following, become more
Mhm.
like accessible like in America. So
Yeah.
like I think it's great when people get to be just vindicated for their work, man.
Yeah. And I
Um
think what's really cool about the horror, like, community as well is that even a movie that may be, for the most part, derided in a franchise or maybe thought of as being like a lesser sequel or whatever, like, eh, all of these movies have, like, diehard fans and people that love them. So even something like, I don't mean to be rude to anyone that worked on the film, but let's just take like Jason Takes Manhattan, right? If you have that cast and you had the whole cast from Jason Takes Manhattan at a con together, like the lines would be out the friggin' door and people would be telling them that it's the best movie in the franchise and their favorite ever because there are those people out there. I think that's
for
what's so
sure.
awesome about horror fandom. And I think like you said, some of the folks that maybe they're in a less, it's not as popular, or yeah, maybe the acting career didn't work out, but they see like this fervor and love for something that they were a part of. And it's just like a blessing that we have that kind of convention culture because they certainly didn't have it in the 80s and 90s, at least for something as niche as horror, you know.
Right. So
And really quick here, I wanted to get to Vinny. Welcome to the chat, bud. Yeah, the membership was actually gifted by, let me see here. It was Big Rod. Big Rod in the chat is gifting memberships. He's done 2 today, and then Happy Sanjo gifted 1 as well. So welcome to channel membership, Vinny. You're going to get some exclusive live streams and all sorts of fun stuff. So just hit the notification bell and pay attention to those posts we do here. And then Eli, yes, it's a killer steelbook. Did you not hear the shout out, Eli? Thank you so much. All
but
right.
yeah, we kind of went on
Alien.
a little tangent there, so we could just bring it
Yeah,
back to bring it back to Alien. If anyone from Alien is at a convention, you should definitely go and meet them because or aliens or anything from that franchise because eventually
absolutely.
these people won't be with us anymore and you won't get the
Hmm.
opportunity. So
Yeah. Yeah, Aaron says Aliens is so good you almost feel the need to be an apologist when Alien beats it.
yeah,
In my
spot on.
opinion, it's just that slight edge. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
Aaron
sure.
just gets it all stream. Aaron's been coming with the really valuable insights, and that's a really a good way to summarize it. You know,
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, if you get the chance to meet these people, say what's up. I mean, it's one of those things where you just never know.
hmm definitely.
Jamie says at Scarefest I ran right into Robert Englund's chest and didn't even notice. I said, oops, sorry. Hubby goes, what's wrong with you? That was Robert Englund. Being short sucks. That's funny.
That's a good little story, though.
Yeah, it's great. Oh my gosh. And Big Rod gifted another membership. Holy crap. What's going on here? MAGA Cat was gifted a membership by Big Rod. Big Rod, you are too kind. And let's see what you guys voted in the poll. I'm going to go ahead and close the holy crap. This is amazing. This is like election night in the poll. Have you checked that recently?
No.
Oh my
Oh
goodness.
wow, 51 to 49%.
Holy cow. Guys, if you haven't voted, I'm going to close out the poll in 1 minute. So if you haven't voted, make sure you get your vote in. I'm interested to know where the audience is at here.
43 votes too. That's a lot.
Yeah, pretty good. So some
That is
people,
a lot.
maybe folks just dropped in just to vote and they had to go take care of something on their Sunday, but I appreciate it for sure.
Definitely.
Big Rod met Kim Basinger and Alec Baldwin. They used to donate to an animal sanctuary and pop in the subway when in town. Oh my gosh, you work next door. All right, that's pretty cool.
That's really cool. Yeah. I think even cooler than at a con, this has never happened to me, but I would imagine meeting someone in a normal setting is probably very interesting too.
Would be kind of wild. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen celebrities and stuff like that. Like I've seen people, never really met other than like people in bands that I really liked,
Mm,
like bumping into Fat Mike outside of a NoFX show. Like that kind of thing is pretty cool. Or
yeah,
like down the street, I think it was down the street before the show even happened. So it was like, at some pizza shop or something like that. So that's one of those like, oh wow. Richard Simmons came to my hometown once and I bumped into him on the road.
oh
Just
wow,
like the main drag, like where all the gift shops are and everything. I had him sign my arm.
that's
That's another
cool.
rest in peace right there for big old Afro sweating to the oldies, Richard Simmons.
Right, right.
Um, so guys, I'm going to close out the poll here. Boom, there it is. It is done. 51% alien, 48%. That math doesn't make any sense. We're just going to call it 51% alien, 49% aliens. Damn, that's really close because it started out like 70 to high 60% alien. So we definitely got some aliens fans that jumped
The
in here and
the
wanted to set
aliens
it straight.
fans, yeah, the aliens fans were here. They showed up. They were not about to. They were not about to take that lying down for sure.
Yeah, that's wild. So yeah, this was really awesome. Thanks for doing this with me, Mark.
Of course,
We
my
maybe
pleasure.
like we were talking before we got going here, maybe this could be something that we could do every now and then, like pitting two movies in a franchise against one another. Maybe when something when it's bubbling up and people are talking about that franchise on a whole, might be kind of fun to do. I don't know what Eli's talking about here now. That's not true. That's not true. Too
Dude, yeah,
sweet though.
definitely. I would definitely like to. The problem is we're gonna have to find movies that are as close as these ones are, because the real fun
Yeah.
of it comes
Mhm.
when it's not just a clear blowout.
Sure.
But I'm also down to just do whatever. We could talk about literally anything. So
Yeah. We
even
could
if
do there's a Friday the 13th coming up in September, and we could do final chapter versus Jason Lives.
that's a good idea, that's
Like
not a bad idea
that's
at
a
all.
tough one. That is a tough one. Like I love Jason Lives, but who knows if it came down to just doing this kind of format, similar format, like I don't know who would actually win if I'm looking at it, as unbiased as possible. you know,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
tough one.
Big Rod says Terminator 1 and 2. Excuse me. Big
Yeah,
Rod, Terminator 1 and 2, that could be a close one.
that's a good one. That is good. Yeah,
We can discuss in
for
our
sure.
DMs, and
Yeah,
we'll definitely be back again.
for
Is
sure.
what I would say. Whatever
And
format that looks like, we'll definitely be back.
yeah, and you guys can go ahead and follow Mark at with the links in the description below. So we've got the Twitter, Instagram, and of course his YouTube page. If you're not subbed over there, go ahead and give him a sub. Do you have anything coming up here? Or I mean, you're always putting out videos. What's your most recent video, and what do you have coming up next?
My most recent video, for the people who have seen Alien Romulus, I did a review for that. It's got spoilers. It's not safe to watch if you have not seen it. So, but I kind of go into the movie, what I like about it, the controversy surrounding it. I don't want to say too much. It's divisive. But I give my thoughts on that. So if you're interested at all, that's out. And then I don't know what's coming next. I do know that I will be doing a Friday the 13th ranking soon. I've got the thumbnail all done up. I've got the actual ranking itself. So the only thing that's left is to actually
Nice,
film the video. But I want that to be a good video. I want it to be
sweet.
a real solid one. So I've been kind of taking my time on that one. So
That's a fun franchise to rank. So I'm really looking forward to that. I love ranking videos, especially once I get to know content creators like kind of style and vibe a little bit as far as like what their sense of taste is. It's even more fun to jump into those rankings. So yeah, that would be I'll be looking forward to that one for sure. Let's see here. Big Rod says Nightmare versus Halloween, two different styles of great movies. But we also got Nightmare and Dream Warriors. That's a good one. I'm going to save that one.
yeah, that's a good point. That's a good one for sure.
Dylan's new Nightmare versus It's Me Billy. But it would break my heart to pit my buddies' movies against one
Yeah,
another.
I wouldn't feel good about that. They're both
But
really
we
good.
could, Yeah, we can. Well, we could celebrate both of them for sure. Sweet. Well, yeah, Mark. Let's see here. We're closing in on almost 2 hours. I think that's a good time to let everyone go for the night and let them enjoy the rest of their Sunday evening. Yourself as well as you put in a shift today dealing with all the damn tourists during the summer there.
Oh yeah, all those New York and Pennsylvania shoobies, as we call them.
Shoebies. Interesting.
That's the term. Yeah, I don't know if that's just
I've
like a
never
new.
heard that.
I don't know if that's like a New Jersey thing, but we call them shoobies. People who are
That's
not from
amazing.
here, who are
Interesting.
just vacationing. Yeah, I couldn't tell you where the term comes from, but that is what we call them.
I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna Urban Dictionary the hell out of it once we're done here. But yeah, man, thank you so much again, guys. Go ahead and check out Mark's channel, Tales from the Shelf. Links in the description below. And yeah, maybe we'll put up a little poll of some of your guys' ideas and see what you want us to tackle next. That would be really cool. Thanks again, Mark. Hope you have a great rest of your night.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thanks to all the guys, everyone in the chat who like
Yeah,
chimed in and like made this discussion that much more fun. These aren't as fun without you guys. So really
yeah.
appreciate everyone for popping out.
Yeah, you guys are amazing. Really want to thank the patrons, the channel members, of course. I'm so pumped with where the membership is at and everything like that. And really want to keep all the folks that have been gifted those memberships around. So we'll be putting out some new content for you guys there. And of course, you guys know I say this every time. You fuel what we do here at the channel. Really appreciate you guys hanging out. We're saying goodbye, and there's 17 people on the stream right now, which is just so cool to have that many folks hanging out with us. Raymond says, fun stream. Let's do it again. Big Rod says, thanks, Davey, Mark, and chat. Our lone mod, Jamie, says this was super fun and does a little hands yellow red heart. I love that StreamYard spells it out. Like I love that about, like, they understand that emoji, but they don't know what Jamie's trying to do. And Raymond is dead on here. Mark is a pretty damn cool dude.
Thanks, Raymond. That's very nice of you. I love talking movies, and Davey's really fun to talk to. So it's just easy. You guys make it easy on me.
Yep, you're not going to be able to stop us. Just like you can't stop James Cameron from making movies that make tons of money, you're not going to stop us talking about movies.
Yeah.
He's been Mark from Tales from the Shelf. I've been and will continue being Davey Deathray. Take care.